Sign here, Dad. It's just dirt anyway. Those were the last words my son Marcus said to me before he destroyed his own life. He just didn't know it yet. And the thing is, I watched him do it. I watched him forge my signature on that transfer deed, smiling like he'd finally outsmarted the old fool who raised him. What Marcus didn't know was that underneath that worthless dirt sat $47 million worth of lithium deposits, and the mineral rights weren't attached to the land sale. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a 73-year-old soybean farmer from rural Nebraska ended up watching his own son commit a felony, lose everything, and come crawling back on his knees begging for forgiveness. My name is Walter Bennett. I've worked the same 340 acres of farmland in Cedar County, Nebraska since I was 19 years old. My father bought that land in 1962 for $12,000, everything he had. He died in 1976, and I've been turning that soil ever since. I raised 2 children on that farm. My daughter, Melissa, moved to Portland after college and became a nurse. She calls me every Sunday, sends pictures of my grandkids, and visits twice a year. She's never asked me for a dime. Then there's Marcus. Marcus was always different. Even as a boy, he was embarrassed by the farm, by our old truck, by the dirt under my fingernails at his school events. When he was 16, he told me he'd rather die than spend his life playing in the mud like some peasant. I didn't argue. I paid for his business degree at the University of Nebraska. I co-signed his first apartment in Omaha. When he started his real estate development company with his college roommate, Tyler Vance, I gave him $40,000 from my savings as startup capital. That was 11 years ago. I never saw a penny back. Not that I expected to, he was my son. But that's what I learned about Marcus over those 11 years. My son didn't see me as his father. He saw me as an ATM with a heartbeat. And once he met Tyler Vance, things got worse. Tyler came from money, old Omaha money. His family owned commercial properties all over the Midwest. Next to Tyler, Marcus was ashamed of me. He stopped bringing friends to the farm. He introduced me to his wife, Danielle, exactly once, at their courthouse wedding. I wasn't invited to the reception. Danielle was pretty in that sharp, calculating way. The first time she saw our farmhouse, she actually laughed. "This is quaint," she said, like she was examining a dead animal on the road. Marcus just shrugged. "I keep telling him to sell, but he won't listen." "Sell?" Danielle's eyes lit up. "How much land is it?" 340 acres. Probably worth 2, maybe 300,000? The house brings it down, though. They talked about my home, my life's work, my father's legacy, like I wasn't standing right there. Like I was already dead. That was 5 years ago. Things only got worse from there. The trouble really started last spring, when Marcus and Tyler's development company hit hard times. They'd over-leveraged on a shopping center project in Lincoln that fell through. Banks were calling in loans. Tyler's family money was tied up in trusts he couldn't touch. They needed cash, fast. Marcus started calling me more often. At first, it was subtle. "Hey Dad, just checking in. How's the farm? You ever think about retiring?" Then it got more direct. "Dad, you're 73. What are you going to do with all that land? You can barely walk to the barn anymore." That part was true. My knees had been giving me trouble for years. Arthur, that's what I called my arthritis, was winning the war. But I wasn't ready to give up my land. That soil had my father's sweat in it. My mother's tears. 60 years of my life. "I'll die on this land," I told Marcus. "And then it's yours and Melissa's." There was a long pause on the phone. "What if we need the money now, Dad? What if waiting for you to die isn't exactly convenient for everyone?" I hung up on my own son that day. First time in my life. A week later, Marcus showed up unannounced with Tyler Vance. I was in the kitchen, making coffee, when I heard their car pull up. Through the window, I watched them walk toward the house, talking in low voices, looking around at the property like they were already measuring it for sale signs. "Dad." Marcus walked in without knocking. "Good, you're up. We need to talk." Tyler hung back by the door, not even pretending to smile. He was holding a folder. "What's this about, son?" Marcus sat down across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed him breakfast for 18 years. "Dad, I'm going to be honest with you. The business is in trouble. Serious trouble. Tyler and I need capital, and we need it fast." "How much trouble?" "We re-looking at bankruptcy if we don't get $200,000 in the next 60 days. I felt my heart sink. Not because of the money, because I knew what was coming. "And you want me to sell the farm?" "Not all of it. Just most of it. We found a buyer. A guy Tyler knows who's looking for agricultural land for some kind of investment project. He's offering $320,000 for the whole property." "The whole property," I repeated. "Including the house. You could move into one of those nice retirement communities in Norfolk. They've got activities, Dad. Bingo. People your own age. I looked at my son, really looked at him. This was the boy I'd carried on my shoulders through the cornfields. The boy I'd taught to drive a tractor. The boy whose college tuition I'd paid by skipping my own meals during the lean years. No, I said. Marcus's face changed. The mask slipped, just for a second, and I saw something cold underneath. Dad, be reasonable. I said no. This land isn't for sale. Not now, not ever. Not to you, not to Tyler's friend, not to anyone. Tyler finally spoke up from the doorway. Mr. Bennett, with all due respect, you're being emotional. This is a business decision. The land isn't even that valuable, it's just sitting here doing nothing. It's doing plenty. It's growing soybeans. It's keeping me alive. It's staying in my family. Marcus stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. You're unbelievable. You know that? You'd rather let your own son go bankrupt than sell some dirt that's going to be worthless when you're dead anyway. If I'm going to be dead anyway, you can wait. That's when Marcus said it. The words that told me exactly who my son had become. You know what, Dad? Fine. Keep your precious dirt. But don't expect me at your funeral. Don't expect me to handle your affairs. When you die alone out here and no one finds your body for a week, remember this moment. Remember you chose this worthless land over your own family. He stormed out. Tyler followed without a word. I watched them drive away, and I won't lie to you, I cried. Sat right there at my kitchen table and cried like I hadn't since my wife passed 15 years ago. But I didn't change my mind. 3 weeks later, something strange happened. A man in a suit showed up at my farm. Nice car, expensive shoes, not the kind of person you usually see on rural Nebraska roads. He introduced himself as Douglas Hampton, a geological surveyor working for a mining company called Western Ridge Resources. Mr. Bennett, I apologize for showing up unannounced. I've been trying to reach you by phone, but the number I have seems to be disconnected. My landline had been acting up for months. I kept meaning to get it fixed. What can I do for you, Mr. Hampton? Well, sir, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Western Ridge has been conducting surveys across this region. We're looking for lithium deposits. Lithium? Like in batteries? Exactly like in batteries. With electric vehicles becoming more popular, lithium is one of the most valuable minerals on Earth right now. And according to our preliminary surveys. He paused, looking almost nervous. Mr. Bennett, we believe there may be a significant lithium deposit underneath your property. I invited him in for coffee. Over the next hour, Douglas Hampton explained something that changed everything. Western Ridge had been using satellite imaging and soil samples to map potential lithium deposits across the Midwest. My farm sat right on top of what they believed could be one of the largest lithium deposits in Nebraska. How significant are we talking? I asked. Douglas pulled out some papers. Based on our initial estimates, if the deposit is as large as we believe, we're looking at $40 to $50 million worth of extractable lithium. I nearly dropped my coffee cup. Now, Mr. Bennett, I need to explain something important about mineral rights. This is where it gets interesting. Back in 1962, when my father bought this land, he did something unusual. The previous owner had separated the mineral rights from the surface rights decades earlier, during an oil speculation boom that never panned out. My father, being a clever man, negotiated to buy those mineral rights separately for an extra $500. Most people don't bother with mineral rights. They think, what's under my land that could possibly be valuable? But my father always said, you never know what the ground is hiding. Those mineral rights had been sitting in my family's name for over 60 years, completely separate from the surface land deed. So what you're telling me, I said slowly, is that even if someone bought my farm, they wouldn't own what's underneath it. That's correct, sir. The mineral rights are a separate legal entity. Whoever owns them controls any extraction operations and receives the royalties. And according to the county records, those rights are registered to. He checked his papers. Walter J. Bennett. That's you, correct? I leaned back in my chair. Mr. Hampton, I think we should talk more about this. Over the next 2 weeks, I had lawyers and surveyors crawling all over my property. Western Ridge confirmed their initial findings. The lithium deposit was real, and it was massive. They offered me a contract, $47 million for the mineral rights, plus ongoing royalties from extraction operations. $47 million. I didn't tell anyone. Not Melissa, not Marcus, no one. I wanted to think, to pray, to figure out what to do with this information. But I also started watching Marcus more carefully. See, after our argument, my son had gone quiet. Too quiet. Marcus was never quiet when he wanted something. He schemed, he planned, he found ways around obstacles. I knew him well enough to know that silence meant he was up to something. I was right. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was supposed to be at a doctor's appointment in Norfolk, a follow-up for my arthritis. But the appointment got cancelled at the last minute due to the doctor's emergency, and I came home early. That's when I found Marcus and Tyler in my house. They didn't see me at first. I came in through the back door, quiet out of habit, and I heard them talking in my office. "Are you sure this is going to work?" Tyler was asking. "It'll work. I've practiced his signature 100 times. The notary won't know the difference." "And you're sure he won't fight it?" Marcus laughed. A cold, ugly sound I'd never heard from him before. "By the time he figures out what happened, the sale will be done. What's he going to do, hire a lawyer? He can barely afford to keep the lights on. Besides, the land's only worth maybe 200 grand. We're getting it for $500 as a family transfer, flipping it to your guy for 300,000. That's pure profit. And the old man? He'll probably be dead in a few years anyway. It's just dirt. He won't even miss it." I stood in my own hallway, listening to my son plan to steal my land. Tyler spoke again. "What about your sister? Melissa? She won't care. She's too busy with her perfect life in Portland. Besides, once the sale goes through, what's she going to do about it? Dad won't even have standing to sue because the deed will be in my name." "And you're sure about the signature?" "Sign here, Dad. It's just dirt anyway." Marcus laughed at his own joke. "That's all I need to say. By this time next week, we'll have 300 grand in the bank and Dad will be looking for a nursing home." I should have walked in right then. Should have confronted them, thrown them out, called the police. But I didn't. Instead, I quietly backed out the door, got in my truck, and drove to my lawyer's office in Norfolk. Because I realized something in that moment: my son wasn't just greedy. He was criminal. And if I was going to protect myself and my land, I needed proof. My lawyer, Henry Morrison, had handled my family's affairs for 30 years. When I told him what I'd overheard, his face went pale. "Walter, that's forgery. That's fraud. That's a felony." "I know. We need to call the police." "Not yet." I held up my hand. "I want to catch him in the act. I want it documented. And I want him to understand exactly what he's throwing away." Henry stared at me. "What do you mean?" So I told him about the lithium. About the $47 million. About the mineral rights that were completely separate from the land deed. Henry sat back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Walter, are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying that if my son wants to steal my worthless dirt so badly, maybe I should let him. And then I want to watch his face when he realizes what he missed." We spent the next 3 days preparing. Hidden cameras in my office. A paper trail documenting the mineral rights. A legal affidavit stating that I had never agreed to sell my property. And a very interesting phone call to the county sheriff, who agreed to be present, discreetly, when the time came. Marcus came back on a Saturday. I was sitting on my porch when he pulled up, alone this time. He had that fake smile on his face, the one he used when he wanted something. "Hey, Dad. How you feeling?" "Same as always. What brings you out here?" "Can't a son just visit his father?" He sat down next to me. "Listen, I've been thinking about our last conversation. I was out of line. I shouldn't have said those things." "It's all right, son. I worry about you, Dad. Out here alone. What if something happened to you?" "I suppose that's a risk." Marcus nodded, looking out at the fields. "You know, I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's in agricultural investment. He mentioned that farmland around here is actually picking up in value. Not a lot, but some." "Is that so?" "Yeah. He said he might even be interested in buying some land out this way. Nothing fancy, just a small investment. And I thought, you know, if you ever did want to downsize, it might be nice to keep it in the family sort of. Have someone we know take care of it." I let him talk. Let him spin his lies. "How much is your friend offering?" "Well, see, that's the thing. He's not looking to pay market rate. He's thinking more of a family transfer. Symbolic amount. Tax purposes, you know?" "How symbolic?" $500. I pretended to think about it. "That's not much for 340 acres. Dad, come on. What are you going to do with it? You can barely walk anymore. Let me take this burden off your shoulders. I'll make sure the land goes to someone who'll take care of it. And you can move somewhere comfortable, somewhere with people who can look after you. And all I have to do is sign it over?" "That's it. Just sign a simple transfer deed. I've got the paperwork right here." He pulled out the folder. The same folder Tyler had been holding weeks earlier. "You know what, Marcus? You're right. I'm tired of fighting." My son's eyes lit up. He actually looked happy, the happiest I'd seen him in years. Happy because he thought he was about to steal everything from me. "Really, Dad? You mean it?" "I mean it. Let's go inside and get this done." We sat down at the kitchen table. Marcus spread out the papers, pointing to various lines and paragraphs, explaining nothing because he didn't expect me to read it. Just sign here, Dad. It's just dirt anyway. Those words. The exact words I'd heard him rehearsing. I picked up the pen. And then I set it down. You know, Marcus, before I sign this, I want to tell you something. What's that? I want to tell you about your grandfather. My father. Do you know why he bought this land? Marcus shifted impatiently. Dad, we don't have time for. He bought it because it was cheap. Nobody wanted it. The previous owners thought it was worthless, just dirt, like you said. But my father always told me something. He said, you never know what the ground is hiding. That's great, Dad. Really touching. Now can we? Did you know that when he bought this land, he also bought the mineral rights? Separately. Cost him an extra $500. Everyone thought he was crazy. Marcus froze. Mineral rights? What are you talking about? That's when I heard the knock on the door. I stood up slowly, my old knees protesting, and walked to the front door. Standing on my porch were Sheriff Bill Patterson, my lawyer Henry Morrison, and Douglas Hampton from Western Ridge Resources. Come on in, gentlemen. Marcus's face went white. Dad? What is this? Sheriff Patterson walked over to the table, looking at the papers spread out there. Those the documents you mentioned, Walter? They are. If you look closely, you'll see my signature has already been added. Except I didn't sign them. My son did. Marcus stood up so fast he knocked his chair over. That's ridiculous. Dad, tell them you signed it. I didn't sign anything, Marcus. But you did. You forged my signature. And I have it on video. I pointed to the small camera hidden in the bookshelf behind him. The one that had been recording everything. Dad, please. There's more. I turned to Douglas Hampton. Mr. Hampton, would you like to explain to my son what's underneath this worthless dirt he was so eager to steal? Douglas stepped forward, professional as always. Mr. Bennett, Marcus, is it? Your father's property sits on one of the largest lithium deposits we've discovered in Nebraska. Our company has offered him $47 million for the mineral rights alone. Marcus's legs gave out. He actually fell to his knees right there in my kitchen. $47 million? But here's the thing, I continued, and I won't lie, there was satisfaction in my voice. Even if you had successfully stolen this land, you wouldn't have gotten the lithium. The mineral rights are separate. They've been in my name, and only my name, since 1962. You could have had the surface, the house, the dirt. But the $47 million underneath? That was never attached to the deed you were trying to forge. Marcus started crying. Actually sobbing, right there on my kitchen floor. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't know there was lithium. But you knew you were stealing from your own father. You knew you were forging my signature. You knew you were planning to leave me with nothing. The lithium doesn't change what you did, Marcus. It just changes how much you lost. Sheriff Patterson stepped forward. Marcus Bennett, I'm placing you under arrest for forgery, fraud, and attempted theft. You have the right to remain silent. I watched them handcuff my son. Watched them read him his rights. Watched them walk him out to the patrol car. Before they put him in the back seat, Marcus looked at me one more time. Dad, please. I'm your son. You stopped being my son the day you decided I was just an obstacle between you and money. I hope prison gives you time to think about that. The aftermath was complicated, as these things always are. Marcus was charged with multiple felonies. Tyler Vance was arrested 2 days later as a co-conspirator. Their development company collapsed, and both of them faced bankruptcy on top of criminal charges. Danielle filed for divorce within a week. I heard she moved back to Chicago to live with her parents. I can't say I was sorry to see her go. The lithium deal went through. $47 million, plus royalties. More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I gave half of it to Melissa. She cried when I told her, not because of the money, but because she finally understood how close she came to losing her inheritance to her brother's greed. Dad, I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I should have visited more. I should have seen what Marcus was doing. You couldn't have known, sweetheart. None of us really know what people are capable of until they show us. I set up trust funds for her children, my grandchildren. College funds, house down payments, enough to give them a good start in life. As for Marcus? He served 18 months in state prison. When he got out, he had nothing. No wife, no money, no business partner, no home. He came to see me, about 3 months after his release. I almost didn't recognize him, he'd lost weight, and there was something broken in his eyes. Dad, I know I don't deserve anything from you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Not because of the lithium. I'm sorry because I forgot who you were. I forgot everything you did for me. I let greed turn me into someone I don't even recognize. I listened. Let him finish. What do you want from me, Marcus? Nothing. I wanted you to know that I remember now. I remember you teaching me to drive the tractor. I remember you sitting up with me when I was sick. I remember you selling your truck to pay for my college. I remember who you were to me, and I'm sorry I forgot. We sat in silence for a long time. I'm not going to give you money, Marcus. And I'm not going to pretend that what you did didn't happen. I know. But you're still my son. I don't know what that means anymore, but it means something. Maybe someday we can figure out what. He nodded, tears running down his face. That's more than I deserve. Probably. But your grandfather always said you never know what the ground is hiding. Maybe that applies to people too. Maybe there's something worth saving buried underneath all that greed and selfishness. I guess we'll find out. Marcus left that day. We weren't reconciled, not really. But we weren't strangers either. We were something in between, something without a name. I still live on my farm. I'm 74 now, and Arthur is winning the war against my knees, but I'm not ready to give up yet. I hired help for the heavy work. Built a new barn. Donated money to the local school and the volunteer fire department. Set up a scholarship fund for farm kids who want to go to college. The lithium extraction started last year. Big machines, lots of noise, men in hard hats everywhere. It's strange seeing my quiet farm turned into an industrial operation, but there's something poetic about it too. All those years, I was walking on a fortune and didn't know it. All those years, my son looked at this land and saw nothing but dirt. But my father was right. You never know what the ground is hiding. You never know what people are hiding either. Sometimes, late at night, I sit on my porch and look out at the fields. I think about my father, who had the wisdom to buy mineral rights nobody wanted. I think about my wife, who loved this land almost as much as I do. I think about Marcus, who threw away his family for money he never got. And I think about that moment in the kitchen, when my son asked me to sign away my life's work for $500. Sign here, Dad. It's just dirt anyway. No, son. It was never just dirt. It was history. It was family. It was 60 years of sweat and sacrifice. And it was $47 million you'll never see. But more than that, it was a test. A test of who you really were, underneath all the smiles and excuses and false affection. You failed that test, Marcus. You failed it completely. But unlike the lithium buried in my fields, I always knew what was hiding inside you. I just didn't want to believe it. A parent's love is blind that way. But even blind love has its limits. The end.